Hello. Last video I shared about the Trololo chart here was titled Crypto Screaming Buy. And we were at not 190 billion, but we were at 150 billion. That's 2 weeks ago. And we were at about 40% valuation of the trend line because the trend line was around 370 billion. And that means 60% undervaluation. And I said that only happened 3 times before. And those were all amazing buying opportunities. And so crypto is a screaming buy. There were some other indicators also, such as the volume indeed here has been as high as during the bull market, which is the first time it happened. It didn't happen here, which usually also is a great indicator that the trend will reverse after a very high volume is set. Usually the trend reverses because enough trading has been done for all parties to be satisfied with their new exposures. But usually it is actually the 80-20 rule. 80% has sold to the 20% that was courageous enough to buy. The same happens on the other way around. During bull markets, you see very high volume at the tops because, the 80% has also bought, the 20% has sold now to the 80% that bought at the top. But since then, prices have gone up a little bit, 190 billion we're now. And we're now not at 40%, but at 50% of the trend line. So only 50% undervaluation, not 60% anymore. But something I discovered that makes me less bullish is what are the probabilities here that we stay considerably below the trend line and actually even higher than here. It's high because that's the pattern. You see, the pattern is always during as a bull market deflates. The peak of undervaluation is the end of the cycle, and actually not where the bottom is. The fiat bottom is here, but it's until here. And that's actually already a bull market, but the all-time high has not been breached. And so it's a slow, doubtful bull market, the early bull market, where you see a maximum undervaluation reached at the end compared to the trend line. Same here. Here is actually the bottom, the fiat bottom, but it takes actually till here to see maximum undervaluation, or at least that you stay way below the trend line. And it's again right before the all-time high is breached. So it's again a doubtful early bull market. And but most importantly, the doubtful early bull market here is a lot more below the trend line. Here it's around 40%. Here it's around 60%. And so here it's around 40% undervaluation. Here it's around 60% undervaluation. That this takes almost 2 years, 1 year and a half. So actually, I think most likely is that patterns continue. And we also saw in last bull market that overvaluation goes down over time. So undervaluation goes up over time is likely to continue. And that also means that we will not go sideways at the same level of here, around the 40% undervaluation. No, we likely go sideways around, let's say, 30% undervaluation. We reached that shortly when we tested the bottom at 120 billion, but you can't see it here because it was on the day. It was on this day, 15th of March. It shows the average price of that day is 150 billion, but we did dip to 120 billion that day. When Bitcoin was not 5,000 but 3,800. And so we did go to 30%, but only shortly. But it's from this chart looks like actually we're going to go back there and stay there for a year, 2 years, and that means stay at such undervaluation, not at the price of testing the bottom and not at 120 billion, we will likely just like here go up in fiat prices again. And so if we go down here to the green line, because you see the difference between the green line always becomes closer. So if we go to the green line, we will be at around 30% of the trend line. And once we touch that, we can just follow it up. And for how long? Well, I think it's very most likely we see the peak of the next bull market at 2023 here. So until 2022, the year before, you always see it's actually a year before, only the last year that it really deviates from the spot and goes into a new bull. Here it's in 1 year, it goes sideways, and then in 1 year it goes into a new bubble. Once it breaches the all-time high, it takes only 1 year to go into a new to reach the new all-time high. Once it breaches here, the all-time high actually took even. Here is the all-time high. It took also 1 year. So I think considering cycles become longer and longer, I did calculations on the other sheet, but peak is expected around 2023, and 1 year before we only then leave the green trend line, which would mean as the 2022 in January that we're still at the green line, which would mean that the most likely scenario is that we do fall more. We go back to testing the bottom for Bitcoin Core at 3,500 or so, 3,800, and and for total market cap we're at 190 billion. We go back to 120 billion, maybe even 110 billion, and that's exactly the line here of 100 billion. That if it would happen this next week or this week, we will likely undershoot it. But if it takes like 2-3 months, we can go sideways a bit at current valuation or up a little bit more and then down a little bit again. But I think it's most probable that we will go back to this green line, and so lower fiat valuations, but not likely to break the bottom of 3,150 because the volume was really high here recently. So I don't think that's likely. But I think it is likely we will go back to those 4,000 area for Bitcoin Core and 120 billion for total market cap, 110 billion over the next week or month or 2 months, 3 months, and then that we start to rebuild it slowly over the next year and a half, that we go back up, but towards the all-time high. And so because these lines, they actually shift as new data comes in, but the all-time high here of I mean, it will be quite steep. Once you reach that 120 billion, that green line actually has to go to the all-time high, and it doesn't here. So would go like this, but then it should go back up to the all-time high. I don't know. No, the mistake is here that actually growth goes down over time. It's actually we're not gonna go that much higher than this here. The next stop is at 2 trillion. So actually we won't be breaching the ultimate high by the end of 2022. We will only breach it maybe half a year before the top is reached, because the top is only 2 to 3 times higher than the previous top of 800 billion here. The next stop is likely only to be 2 trillion, maybe a little higher, 2.5. So that's only 2 to 3 times higher. So likely it will take till the middle of 2022 before we breach that all-time high. And you can see the green line is closer to it here. So yeah, likely. Yeah, and that means the doubtful market is still then. So that means it's not till the end of 2021, but till the middle of 2022. So yeah, we can go down and then follow this line for a long time. And only then in 2 years from here, we breach it. I think that's the most probable. What does that mean for my investment plan? Not much. My investment plan is very well thought out. I just stick to my allocation strategy here. I went to 64%, as was dictated recently, actually. I still have the numbers in. 63%. I did that. I went to 64% here when we were at around current valuations. These were the valuations that I bought. But as of now, if we change the numbers, of course, we're higher. So it will recommend to have a lower allocation. But the way this investment plan works is you buy as prices go down, but you don't sell again. And that's certainly not something I would want to risk today, is to sell a piece of my crypto to try to play lower prices. No, because it has become too risky. We are in many indicators very, very well valued. For example, the crypto fear index here, we are at historically low. Of course, this is only again the last cycle of the bull market. We don't see the previous bear market, can't compare with that, and the early bull market of previous cycle, we don't see this. But we do see, for example, that when we hit the all-time low of 3,150, 100 billion here, yeah, that takes a month, 2 months. That fear levels are very high from November here till December, a month is this, and then we go back out of it. It was too much bullishness here. It was another indicator. We went from 3K to 14K again. That's very strange. That it cannot be an early bull market. That was a good sign there that prices. We were not ready for a bull market because it went way too quick and too fast. But now this has all played out, and we're back at we're now at 6,000, but we shook out successfully the bulls here already, I believe, and we're at fear levels that can stay a couple of months very low. But in any case, if you buy around such fear levels, you're likely doing a good job. So hence, you should not be trying to trade in and out of crypto. Like, this is a time to build your long-term stash and only hold, and not sell, not try to trade it. So I was unable, for example, to buy when the bottom was tested. It just went too quick for me. And actually, I was there. If I would be wanting to buy Bitcoin Core, I would have been able to, I think. But I wanted to buy especially Bitcoin Cash, and that was much harder, much less liquidity. But I think from the Trololo chart that we will likely go back to these valuations and stay there for a while. So we will get another other opportunity to buy at those levels. And my plan is then to go to 70% allocation. And my current, actually, my allocation went up from 63 or 64% to 70% now because crypto went up a bit. But if we go back to these valuations, my allocation will drop from 70 to, say, I don't know, 55% or so. And then I will raise it again to 70% and buy some more crypto. That's my plan. If we break the bottom, which I think is unlikely, only a 33% chance, we would go likely to 2,000 then once we break 3,050 or right below 2,000. My plan is to go not to 70 but to 83% allocation. And I think that's a very, very good plan. I don't want to invest more in it. I still want to keep some other investments, so around 20% or 15%. But that's what I'm planning to do. And in my case, my other investments are Tesla and calls on Tesla and Amazon mainly. And those positions are actually not doing well right now. The calls, I lost half. So you can still copy them for half the price I paid for them. But it all depends also what happens in my other investments, whether I will have cash to invest at these prices when they are would be reached. I might have a lot less cash actually, and if those calls, for example, drop through the floor to zero, and Tesla shares don't go up but down, I might automatically go to these allocations without being able to invest any cash in it. But if in the meantime the calls of Tesla and other calls and Tesla shares go up, I might actually be able to invest more cash into it. We'll have to see how that goes. Um, yeah. And of course, this is all probabilities. I said in the previous video actually that I don't think it's likely we will retest the bottom. So I come back from that. From looking at this Trololo chart, I think actually, yes, it's likely we will go back to there. Um, mm, but still believe it's not likely we will breach it, the bottom, due to the volume that was set. So that's a difference. But still, I strongly believe you should not try to trade this any crypto that you're able to buy and stash at current valuations. Even I'm not talking about Bitcoin Core, but about Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash. Uh, at current valuation is 6,800. Yeah, I think it's too high again for Bitcoin, but not for Ethereum at 140 or Bitcoin Cash at 220. I think these are great long-term investments that you should keep and not try to play. The potential here, I always have to keep an eye on that. But the potential of these coins is this, in my opinion. If they just go back to the market shares at previous bull markets, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, these are the potential. So at current valuations of $130 for Ethereum or $220 for Bitcoin Cash, will prove to be amazing investments only in 3 years or 2 years, 2 to 3 years from here. So that's really not worth trying to sell and then buy back cheaper. You might really fail in that. It's also, this is about probabilities. If past patterns continue, and mostly they do, it is likely this will happen, but that's not a given, especially in current climate where the world has gone crazy and there's already enormous panic and fear in the global markets, that is already priced into crypto today. And then there has been lots of money printing. I mean, these are risky situations where you don't want to trade in and out of valuable assets that are clearly very cheap. So that's why I'm very happy. I have already the majority of my portfolio invest in crypto. It was 63%, and with current rises, I'm at 70% exposure, and I'm very happy with that. I wouldn't dare to trade it anymore. I've traded 2 times in the past cycle. Once I bought a majority allocation here, and then I sold it off back here. And then I bought a majority allocation back here, and I sold it off back here. So I did that 2 times, and I will not do it a third time because the climate has changed a lot since we were here. Here you could be skeptical if we saw the bottom because the volume was not there. Most weak projects remained in the market after this shakeout. And once prices went back up, the weak projects got strengthened again. Most permabulls after this were not shaken out and were actually, the price went from 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000, and they were all back bullish again, screaming that we go into a new bubble within months. So they were clearly not shaken out, and I think that explains also this weird pattern that we went so high. But that's not the case today anymore. I think um, I mean, weak projects are really getting a very hard time now, and I think are in the process of dying. Permabulls have learned some really valuable lessons now. and many are sitting on losses, buying high and now stuck in their investments because they can't sell at a loss. They don't want to sell at a loss, but yeah, their confidence has lowered. Um, and of course, we can't expect the same kind of shakeouts as in previous bear markets and early bull markets. Crypto is becoming a lot bigger every time, 10 to 100 times. Uh, 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 yeah, and it is a strong growth market. So yeah, you have to set your expectations not too low of how many weak projects you want to see drop out, because there's a limit to that also. For example, I made a tweet about IOTA, a good system, by the way. If you want to know my opinion about something, you search in Twitter IOTA, Mark de Mezel, and you will get it. Huh? Um, but latest IOTA is not a project I believe in, but I don't think it can go much lower than what we saw. The 400 million target actually that I set in 2018. It went up from 500,000 US dollars to 10 billion, a crazy amount during the past bull market. But it went then down to 2 billion the first half year of 2018. But I thought that was not sufficient. It should go down to 400 million. Um, and we did reach that shortly. Yeah, so today we are at the 400 million market cap. And the 400 million here has finally been reaches the blue line. But the thing is that I believe projects like this can't go much lower anymore because there are no sellers. The sellers, it was a very few amount of people that bought, invested in at the ICO and made tons of profits. But they've easily got 10 times, if not 100 times, as much money out of the project than they put in. And actually, it's easily 100 times, because the project went up from 500,000 US dollars to 10 billion. That's a crazy number. That's times 2,000 or so. So they easily got 100x out of it, and they don't sell more because of, well, there's always hope left, that it will come back, and they can just leave that money in. They don't need that money, and it has gone down so much already that they refuse to sell anything more. And of course, you have many that fell into the trap of buying IOTA around 5 or 10 billion, are sitting on huge losses now. But there too, they've been shaken out. Um, it's over. It's done. Um, and the amount of IOTA they have, the ones that are sitting on huge losses, is very low because they paid a very high price. So even if they capitulate even more and sell it all, um, if they haven't done so already, it won't make much of a difference on the price. So there's a limit to how low something can go. And for example, for IOTA, I think we've reached that. I don't follow many projects, so I can't judge the other ones. But this is an example for me of a project that has bad fundamentals, bad management, and was pushed into absolutely crazy valuations, as so many projects did in past bubble. But yeah, what can you expect of these projects? How low will they go? I think we reached a bottom for those projects. But you see, January 2019, a year ago, it was still 1 billion. So that was when the all-time low was set for Bitcoin, and the total market cap was 100 billion there, and 3,150 for Bitcoin. But project like this was still 1 billion, which was too high. I know, 600 million, sorry. 600 million. Yeah. It was here 1.3, but then after the correction end 2018, it went to 700 million. Yeah, but it's again cut by two. You will see this with many projects, probably. So if you haven't invested enough in crypto yet, I would certainly recommend to send your fiat to the exchanges and try to catch a double bottom, double testing of the bottom. If we go back to 4K and maybe a little bit lower, even for Bitcoin Core, it's still possible and probable, I would say. Um, and these valuations, 100 for Ethereum and 150 for Bitcoin Cash, is still possible and even probable. A difference of opinion I have compared to previous video. Um, if you look at the stock market, we did a bounce the past week, but there's still lots of fear in the air and lots of bad news coming from the US, amount of infected people, and that's so we might get another testing of the bottom also for the stock market. So crypto will likely follow that also. Not make a new low also for the stock market, I don't think is likely, but the testing of it of that same bottom is still probable. And so if you haven't bought enough of stocks or crypto, that's a very good time to prepare for that today and to try to catch that if it does happen, um, because these things do go fast, and you're too late if you want to transfer fiat to the exchanges when the crash starts to happen. Thanks for watching.